Good day and welcome, America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Tom Donahue Reports and The Briefing. And I want to focus to some extent on a former radio host, podcaster, Secret Service agent, New York City cop, and that's Dan Bongino. Now, I'm going to start from the most recent and go backwards slightly, and that is he was on Fox News complaining about how hard he's working, how many hours he's putting in. He's away from his wife, and he's in this office, and he's staring at the walls, and he kind of misses his old life. What? I mean, how long has he been in the job? I think he just left, 45 days, 60 days ago. I mean, it was less than 2 months, I know, from his last radio broadcast and podcast. That's a conscious choice. And the fact is, he's run multiple times for political office and has lost. So he had this ambition and drive. And of course, as a Secret Service agent, New York City cop, he's been in public service, government positions, big MAGA fan and a MAGA promoter and Trump friend and ally. And he was on Fox News and they parted ways, but he continued with his radio show. But this whining, there's so many whiners in the Trump administration. But Bongino, here's a story from Mediaite. It says, FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino brutally mocked for going on cable news, which is Fox News, to complain about how hard his job is. Another one from the Independent. Bongino cries to Fox News about how much he hates his new job. I gave up everything for this. Wait a minute. I thought it would have been wiser, at least at the time, that if he was going to go into governmental service, serving in the Trump administration, that he would be the Secret Service director. Now, I know Trump rewarded the agent that shielded him and protected him, and I get that. That's not a bad choice. I'll give credit where credit's due, but that's where I think Bongino ultimately should have gone. That guy should have been his deputy. And I don't know about this Cash Patel. I'm not going to get into all that. I don't know enough about him, but I don't know. He's kind of creepy to me, but I'll reserve judgment and watch his progress in the job. But there have been some stories about spending a lot of time at sporting events and nightclubs and all that. I don't know how true that is, so I haven't had a chance to look into it. But Bongino not only complaining about his work, and, being deputy director of the FBI, that's a pretty prestigious job. I mean, that's a pretty powerful job. And he's working for Trump, and he's working for America, and he's trying to clean things up. And so it's like, why wouldn't this be like a fantastic opportunity and project to sink your teeth into and do as much as you can within, these next, 4 years? I realized, because I was a syndicated national host at one time in the 90s, and not paid as much as some of these guys today, but, I wanted to do it. I didn't care about the money. And I wanted to be on real radio stations. Well, at that time, there was no streaming. There was no podcasting. So either you got into radio if you could earn your way and work your way into it, or you just wrote a newsletter, or I guess you could voice something into a cassette tape. But, the landscape has changed. There's many ways that you can get your message out and communicate and be part of the broader broadcast community. I love it when people say, well, I'm doing my radio show today, and they've never set foot in a radio station. They've never been on a radio station in terms of their stream or their show, or so I kind of crack up. But I know it's sometimes used in a generic sense. The majority of these guys and gals, they don't know really what real radio is. But just like, hey, if someone could say, well, I'm a professional football player, and college is not on the same level, and then amateurs are not on the same level. So you have a lot of different people that don't make it successfully at the upper tiers. And I guess that's in any industry, really, cream of the crop. So anyway, back to Bongino. I never thought he was particularly that talented in his talk show. I thought it had a certain appeal. I thought he was relatable, and I thought that he tried to the best of his skill set and ability to communicate. Wasn't my favorite show, but I mean, he's not a bad guy, I don't think. So again, this whining about your job, and then this is more important than being a whiner. And you think Secret Service agent, New York City cop, he'd be a tough guy, and I mean, he's just getting into the job, and you're complaining. I mean, really? And it's just crazy. So anyway, Glenn Beck said this and this article was picked up in media. It says, "What changed Patel and Bongino's minds? Glenn Beck calls out Trump's FBI brass rejecting the Epstein conspiracy cover-up." Bongino's claiming, "I've seen the tapes and there's nothing to it." But he didn't say that on his radio show. And you say, well, now he's in the belly of the beast and he's able to look at these things. But I remember reading that the tapes were erased. So I don't know what tapes he was looking at. And by golly, whatever you've got needs to be released. I'll give it to Trump. At least, could have done it in his first term. He did release some of the JFK files, but the RFK file and JFK files in almost its entirety have been released. Now, we don't know what's been destroyed, what's been hidden, but whatever they could find, they did put out there. So I applaud Trump for that. And I applaud Congressman Luna, a few others that helped in those matters. Oh, so here was the article relating to those tapes. That Bongino promises Epstein video to prove that no one was there but him. So he's saying that Epstein himself, with peering eyes, and making their rounds and fully lighted and cameras, security cameras, that he was able to easily, with little or no ways to commit suicide, did so, and then wasn't found right away and was not stopped from the act of suicide. So to me, the alternative theories, and again, I haven't put tremendous amount of thought behind this, but we know that Bill Clinton on the flight logs going to that island quite a bit. Hey, Dershowitz was there too. A wide array of people that, were party to that. Now, we do know that Trump himself went to the mansion in New York City. Epstein said before his death that Trump was his very best friend for 10 years. And there's many, many pictures of him with Epstein. I don't think Trump would have had anything to do with his demise. Some say the Clintons, because there's so much potential evidence against Bill Clinton. And there were other high-level politicians and people in industry and New World Order figures, that princes or high-level European aristocracy, that were potentially scrutinized. It could have been murder for hire, whether it's paying another inmate or you have someone that comes in as a substitute, a fill-in security guy. And we see many of these escapes where people are getting paid on the side to look the other way, or to unlock something, or to provide a uniform. And so it's not out of the question. I mean, common thugs, criminals, persuading through financial means or threats, effectuate their escapes. So why couldn't somebody do the same for a high-profile guy with the goods on so many, sneak into a cell and take someone out? It is plausible. It is possible, highly likely. The other thing is, which I was talking to somebody that we were kind of bouncing a few ideas around on this. What if Epstein himself paid for his own execution because he didn't want to face the rest of his life in prison, and he didn't want to face possible prison abuse, taken out in ways that would be even more uncomfortable in terms of an untimely death? I think that is also a possible theory. But Bongino, I don't think he's the brightest bulb in the drawer, okay? I mean, I'm just going to say it. He's like on the level of like Sean Hannity, okay? Now, Hannity's a hard worker, and I'm not faulting him for not going to college and getting a degree. That doesn't mean that you're a smart person necessarily. But someone that repeats themselves over and over again. There is an article, I'll give Bongino a little bit of credit here as I'm looking for this article, that he said they are investigating the COVID origins. So he is looking into some things in terms of, like how the Russia, hoax and gate, started, and more of the facts behind that. I think that there can be some productive exercises, if you will, that will be carried out by Bongino and perhaps Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. But Bondi, remember all the promises she made about the Epstein files, and then she's gone dead silent. There's nothing. So something's not quite right here. Oh, the other thing that Bongino wants to investigate is the cocaine showing up in the Biden White House. Well, what about Elon Musk and his known for heavy drug use? And he was doing it on the campaign trail. So if you're going to investigate that, why not something recent on Elon Musk? Oh, but he was a great supporter of the Republican Party and MAGA and Trump and Doge. Well, he's on his way out now anyway. Here are the articles that I was looking for. Trump has long warned of a government deep state now in power, he's under pressure to expose it. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino now officially part of the deep state cover up. And that's as it relates to the Epstein files. And some of the MAGA base, certainly people that have studied the conspiratorial aspects and the deep state, they're starting to question, like, wait a minute, we're not getting everything that we hoped for or that we're promised. So much for exposing completely the deep state. So it's certain facets or aspects of the deep state that we'll expose, but others might be a little too close to people that we like. People that are on supposedly on our artificial divide inside of the political aisle. So I just wanted to discuss some of these things. And I'm not just giving you the MAGA perspective. I'm not just giving you the what's popular, mini bopper, my head up and down, and just going along to get along. I'm just going to call it like I see it, tell it like it is. Let the truth prevail. Shine the spotlight onto the darkness, and that's what we do here. So Tom Donahue Reports in the briefing. Till we meet again. Have a great day.